we have a bunch of questions about realms lore and working in the realms and stuff. So we'll just go through a couple of
Oh,
those.
it's getting hot in
So
here.
let's start with an easy one, and then we'll move on to the slightly more complicated ones. So we were talking earlier about Storm Silverhand, and
Hmm.
it, if anything, is the most infamous and the most iconic about Storm Silverhand. It is clearly her old floppy boots. Do they have any magical properties?
Um,
In case you want to
yes,
stat them and use them at the table.
yes, they do. And also, like all boots of that age, one heel is a push dagger. You click it the right way, and the heel itself becomes the handle. And there's a blade that goes up through the sole of the boot, like lengthwise along the sole of the boot, that you pull out.
Hmm.
And so, therefore, even more so than the tiny little belt buckle Avenger of Chastity type push dagger, this one is a somewhat more um, substantial push dagger. The
Nice.
other boot heel, of course, is hollow, and it has two compartments. The first one is full of the usual, I have one gem all wrapped up. And what you do is you hollow out a nut and you put the gem in the nut casing so it doesn't get shattered by the coins it's sharing the thingy with. And you
Hmm.
put 3 or 4 coins in. So that's your, spending money. And then the second compartment, which is much smaller, has the magic item, a feather token,
Ah,
which you can use. In this case, it would be a flying feather token. It's get me the heck out of here, please. So
Love it.
that's what's in the boots. Um,
excellent.
but the floppy boots and the wood chopping scene in general were
Obviously, that's what I was talking about. Yes.
okay. Were merely there to tell you that these women who've lived these long lives and seen the death of everybody they knew and loved, and I don't just mean lovers, I mean friends, family, kingdoms have fallen by the wayside underneath them. They've outlasted them. They don't care. And I did that again in Stormlight, where there's the scene which the editor sort of winced and said, we have to sort of pedal this back so it's not so graphically described, where she ends up stark naked at the feast because everything's been burned off her. And she
Hmm.
just sort of calmly takes her place at the table. And they're going, huh? She's not embarrassed. She's not phased. No, she doesn't care. It's been this many centuries. I don't care anymore. And that's what I kept trying to point. This is not the blushing, shrinking violet that you can, say a dirty word or, the modern online version of this would be send a dick pic to, and then they would go, oh no, they just go, scene much larger, you know, and sit down. They just don't care. And that's what I was attempting to convey there. She was, in that case, doing it for comfort. And everybody said, but that's crazy doing it in the nude. She might, if the axe slips, well, I got news for you.
Splinters.
Having cut, having cut trees down with the axe going around, it doesn't matter whether you got 2 inches of leather or nothing. It's going to do the same damage. And she just wanted the comfort. She wasn't nude. She was wearing her boots and she was wearing a headband because she doesn't want the sweat
Right.
to go down. And otherwise, she didn't care. Somebody came visiting. She's not going to say, "Excuse me, I have to run inside, put some clothes on, or do this." She doesn't care. She goes, "Yeah, hi," you know. And that was the whole point. It was to convey, "I don't care." In other words, reader, do not pigeonhole this
Hmm.
character as either um, the blushing oh, or Frank Fazetta's I have to take all my clothes off and wrap my hands around Conan's ankles. Thank you very much to be on this cover. Because hey, that's my role. It's like no, do not pigeonhole these particular characters into being what you think they're going to be, because they are going to surprise you. Anyway, that was Storm. So
Cool. Thank you. I hadn't thought about it in quite those terms, but I appreciate the explanation. All right.
hey, Storm, I would love to write 20 novels about. And the thing about Storm is she changed so much from book to book what she was going through. I don't mean she changed as a character, but she would go through everything and you'd go, is this the same? Yeah. You know, and then she would use Mert as a horsey for book. Might as well get some use out of you. Ride him, cowboy.
What a non sequitur.
Oh boy.
Hey, I
Oh.
was actually thinking of calling the saddle non sequitur.
All right. So
Oh my goodness.
we talked a little bit earlier about several of the deities in the realms that are maybe doing things, and maybe killing them would be for the sake of the world. Another reader question is, what is the best and or fastest way to ascend to godhood in the realms? Specifically, what would you do
Me?
if your editor called you up and said, I need you to ascend to godhood? And you said, okay, sure, I
Pay
can do
me!
that. I can. And you said, sure, I can do that. When? And they're like, tomorrow.
Okay, I'm gonna need the mansion. I'm gonna need the Learjet. I'm gonna need. No, okay,
I
no.
thought you
Let's...
have to send a fictional person to God.
Okay, a fictional person to godhood in the realms.
Yes.
Yes.
I assume. Okay.
Sure.
The short answer is be in the right place at the right time, because a heck of a lot of them ascended because some other god bit the dust in spectacular fashion, and the mortal was in the right place at the right time. The slightly longer version is come up with a new angle that nobody's come up with before, your own portfolio.
An original idea.
I am the god of the watching brief. Well, when we get lawyers, you can, you know, no, I mean, you come up with something new. I am the god of wells that are actually bottomless and are portals to other planes. And this, oh, we need those guarded. Okay, you're in.
Nice.
And then you, why am I being changed to a pussycat? Pussy down the well. Because AO has a sense of humor too. But no, the main, that would be the other one. Come up with your own portfolio. And the third one is the classical one of the dungeon mastering table. We want to kill Asmodeus and take his place.
Good effing luck, guys.
Yeah, exactly. and I once heard Gary Gygax deal with that. They'd say, oh, so who's that? And they said, it's Orcus. Oh, we attack him. Okay, roll up new characters. But aren't you going to let no? Roll up new characters.
That's amazing.
We don't have time for this.
I'm going to tell you something really quick. I'm running a Zoom game for Idris, for my son and some of his friends. And one of them is obsessed with fighting the Tarrasque. They are level 3. But every single day he tells me he wants to fight the Tarrasque, and I'm very tempted to use this. I think I'm actually going to one of these times be like, oh, a Tarrasque pops out and you fight it and you all die, and then you wake up and you never ask me this question again. Look for the goal. Sorry.
A friend of mine is working on another product that I have otherwise nothing to do with, and I'm not going to say the name or anything. But I recently got a bunch of questions about the Tarrasque, and you know, I mean, how many would there be? Is it one per world or whatever? Okay, how do they lay eggs that don't hatch until they die, and then the next one, you know, that sort of thing. So you could do an adventure where, hey, you know that egg we just cracked and ate and made that huge omelet with? The Tarrasque is going, excuse me?
Rude. I love it.
Am I gonna have to lay another one now? The tail lifts and your village runs for their life.
That's so delightful.
Okay. Another reader question. All right, here we go.
Poor Erik.
It's fine. So
He's clinging to the missile as it reaches the apogee and then starts down towards the city.
Listen, this is our
I keep
channel
hitting
now,
the
so we can
abort
make this
button
as
and
long as it
nothing
needs
is
to be.
happening.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, let's see. So
Fine, never been better, officer.
one of our readers who particularly likes elves and particularly drow in particular.
She's one of our mods too.
Yeah, one of our mods too. She says, I heard that Eilistraee and Vhaeraun have set aside their animosity and are allied now. What does this look like among their followers? I get the sense that like there are some drow in her game and she wants to, portray this cultural fusion very well. Would you describe those two deities as being allied? And and how does that pan out with their followers?
They work together. They would give each other safe house refuge. They would give each other healing. They would give each other food and drink and a guard if they staggered in exhausted and just needed to sleep. Here, you can sleep here. It's safe. We'll be standing watch, sort of thing. But the two deities, although the clergy had to learn uneasily to trust each other, but they've had some time to do that. Realms time. They are essentially of two different styles. Eilistraee is far more the, hey man, hippie, no underwear, let's go dancing, sort of thing. And Vhaeraun's far more like, I'm on a mission here. It would in the old days, the Vhaeraun head clergy who was running a mission would be the John Wayne type. And to our generation, it's the Bruce Willis type. So, yeah, as the characters they portray in movies, I mean. So it would be the, excuse me, we're on a mission here. The fate of the world hangs in the effing balance. Got that? And the Eilistraee would say, yeah, I know. That's why I'm dancing. So if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy and the way they all treat Star-Lord, that's sort of like the Eilistraee priestess, clergy, doing that, sort of offbeat. And the Vhaeraunian priest is far more like Drac the Destroyer in those movies. It's like, it's over his head. Nothing gets over my head.
My reflexes are too fast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's like, I'm a straight arrow. No sense of humor. And now, it doesn't mean they have no sense of humor. It's mean they are far more, could you stop arson around here and get serious? And the Eilistraee priest is dancing. He's like, look, no matter what we do in life, we do it with elegance. So to pull another movie reference, the priests, the clergy of Eilistraee are the musketeers. The three musketeers, always lipping each other off and saying, throwing knives and saying, "Oh, I've forgotten how it feels," and stuff like that. And the Vhaeraun priests are like, "Will you guys quit arsing around and get with the program? We got a hill to take here."
They're like the Rainbow Six team.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So it's as if you're straight, square-jawed Navy SEALs with buzz cuts, and the woman shave every morning because the testosterone is just busting out all over, are stuck together with the hippies, and the hippies are going, "Hey man, how's it hanging? Oh, I got to take a hit of this because we're going into danger." Oh, and you realize that slows your reflexes. Yeah, man, that's why I'm doing it, so you'll be safe.
Well, I hope Sundering is happy with your reply.
Yes.
Well,
It seems very accurate.
Well,
see how this plays out in our game.
Yeah, it's just clashing styles.
Yeah,
they want the same thing. They want the same goals, but they are forever, well, at least at the moment, they're forever getting there by different styles. And they look at each other and go, "What?" Because they just can't capiche the different styles.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? We only get one life, I think. So I want to do it properly. With elegance. Yeah, elegance. Got that. Elegance.
Nice. All right. I have another question. This is not an audience question, and it's not an Erin or I question. This question comes from Yang himself,
What?
our tech guy here on the show. He's one of the Dungeon Scrawlers. He plays Stong,
The bard whose strength is his strength.
the strength bard, whose charisma is 8, but his strength is 20, and that's what counts. And his question is, I'm going to have to modify his question because the answer is obviously yes. But are there any secrets? Yes. Are there any secrets you've put in your novels or the Forgotten Realms setting that haven't been explored yet? So the modification is, tell me about one of those secrets.
Okay, there are over 20 that haven't been sussed.
I'm shocked at how small that number is, to be honest.
Well, no, because
I'm
a
a little
lot of them have
surprised.
been, because Eric Boyd and George Crashos have been exhaustively asking me questions
fair.
over
That's
the
a good
years.
point.
They have tracked down quite a few of them. Like, for instance, Dove the Black Star and all that stuff. They wouldn't leave that alone. And there's one that is
they're not the kind of guys who would. So
yeah. And there's one that is currently making the rounds on Twitter, so I can safely tell you about it, and that's the one I will tell you about.
Okay.
Somebody asked what my favorite dragon was, and I said it's a gold dragon, and there's only a few hints that she's a gold dragon because she's so successfully lived amongst humans in human form for so long. And of course, what I'm getting on Twitter right now is guess after guess from the list of dragons of Vhaeraun. And it's like, no, guys,
Other
that's
way.
wrong. Other way.
Yeah, it's definitely a person.
Are you going to tell on this interview?
No, I am not.
Oh, you stink. You got our hopes up.
No. I don't want to give it away because I want them still to have the fun of guessing. And in the same
would you like Erin and I to guess? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I can guess.
Sure, but you don't have to do it now. You don't have to be on the spot. This is a long-term fun one.
All right,
if someone guesses, will you say yes? That's it?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I will confirm. And the other thing is, you see, there's another long-term thing. Years and years ago, I wrote a Harlequin romance, and I refused to say what the title is or what pen name I used. And for years, all my library and coworkers have said, "Is it this? Is it this?" And I have to tell you this one cute little thing. There are library patrons and library staffers who read every single Harlequin because they interloan them by the number. I need Harlequin Presents number 232. Okay, what's it called? I don't know, but that's the...
I don't know. I don't care. That's irrelevant.
Yeah. There's so many.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to find this out, and I want to find it out. Oh, bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, I have also helped fix, book doctor, several other ladies' Harlequin romances. See, when you write a Harlequin, you have to use a feminine pen name. It will probably not surprise you to learn that although a vast majority of them these days are housewives, there was a time when there were a lot of them looked like Danny DeVito. Only Jewish. But that age, balding, cigar, and they used to have these hilarious editorial meetings at Harlequin. The head offices had by then moved to Don Mills, where I was, and I can't, with your veil of decency, PG-13, repeat what they used to say around the table. But let us just say they used to dissect the sex scenes. Well, should she really do that in chapter 3, or should we save that for chapter 7?
Nice.
Alternative to technicalities.
Yeah, and they would discuss this as the cigars made their way around the table, sort of thing. Oh yeah. so yeah, there are lots of secrets, and there are lots more secrets in the realms. But the easy ones, the easily cherry-picked ones, like what's that name? Never seen that before or since. Those have been done. Those have been picked already. Now we're looking for things where you have to read between the lines of how I wrote something. Some of them were ruined by the fact that TSR had these things called editors who thought they knew better. And when I use a particular word, I use it for a reason, and they would change it to a simpler, more Dr. Seussian word. No. First of all, the words do not mean the same thing. Secondly, I was doing something there that you won't find out about until 15 years after you've been fired from the company in another product. Oh yeah.
Shots fired.
Oh yeah, we had some of those dinners. And Brian Thompson used to sit there giggling as head of book department. He'd literally giggle. He'd sit there in the restaurant going as I set them straight on the error of their ways. There's actually a famous wartime World War II story about that, when they were censoring telegrams sent back and forth, and they caught a spy because so-and-so said anti-deceased, and they changed the telegram to anti-dead. And then the telegram came back saying, anti-dead or deceased?
Oh.
And then they just went and arrested the guy who sent the telegram. Obviously, it was a code word.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Interesting.
yeah, so some of the ones I put in there, some of the Easter eggs were taken out, and others were used for plots for novels and so on. People would pick up on them. And I used to get these weird phone calls at a public library where I was manning the desk at this one room open plan public library. It's quite a large room, but it was all one room. And the desk was centrally located. And I would answer it and say, "Good afternoon, Brookbanks Public Library." And then I'd have Jim Louder on the line saying, "So, this thing here, can we murder this guy and just leave his head on a pike?" First you learn never to use the speakerphone function. And secondly, you learned how to reply in ways, and even then I was the only guy, so all my coworkers were female, and they'd all walk past me giving the various variations on the hairy eyeball, the stink eye, the and I'm not wearing my glasses. You need horn rim glasses to do this, and look over the edge disapprovingly as you walk past. Yes, that's it. As you walk past. Thank you.
No problem.
As Eddie's saying into the phone, well, they are intelligent monsters, so maybe we shouldn't have a cooking recipe for them. Ethical problem here.
Only been this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
We did things like that, and and there was a famous cartoon scribbled by one of the artists, which had an orc eating a particularly juicy part of the human anatomy, and he'd just taken a bite out of the naughty bit, so it was gone, and he goes, "Need salt." Now, that is a perfect example of the sense of humor that was on display in the creative areas of TSR as opposed to the management areas.
That
4
friction
years
between management and creative never ends, does it?
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I have a goofy question that kind of ties into this, but I want to make sure we get through a goodly number of
I think we've got through a goodly number of them.
okay. So
There's kind of a involved metaphysical one if you want to talk about that one. Yeah, let's do the involved metaphysical question. Then we'll move on to the more goofy.
Okay.
All right.
Evolved metaphysics 101.
So, you may have seen this question somewhere else before. I think the person asked you on Twitter, but didn't get an answer, I guess. Anyway, here we go.
A flood of Twitter questions.
What happens to the souls of goodly creatures?
Oh, we did this one. Yes.
Okay, who are sacrificed to evil deities?
Mm-hmm.
Does the evil deity devour their soul? Is it enough to feed only on their pain during the sacrifice so they don't eat their soul? Do the souls still end up with their intended deity? Does it depend on what kind of sacrifice it is?
Yes, that last bit it does. But in general, here's the rule of thumb. When a soul is devoured, it usually isn't. It's like death in D&D. It's not permanent.
Hmm.
It's like death in the comic books. It's not permanent. Okay? What happens is the thing that is devouring the souls, and I say thing because sometimes are monsters and some of them are servitor creatures. They're not all deities themselves. But when they say they devour souls, what they usually do is they feed off the pain and other emotions. They feed off of memories. And we saw this in Elminster in Hell. What he was doing was sacrificing his memories to Nurgle throughout the book. He was trying to keep the memories that he considered important from his security. You know, to an American, the launch codes. He was trying to keep those and sacrifice all the memories. So he was losing memories of people dying that he loved and so on. He was tossing them to be devoured. Okay, so that happens, and the soul itself seems to have been devoured. It is gone. And then it recoalesces out the rear end afterwards. In the same way that would you eat a steak, the steak is gone, but something, you're really only converting it. It's not one-on-one matter transfer. It's not gone on a molecular level. It's just changed and then moved on down the cycle of life. So what happens in this case is the soul recoalesces. The memories are gone for good, or they're garbled. The emotions are gone, so the soul is at peace, and the soul goes to the right plane or the right judgment of the deity that it most venerated in life. Now, for
follow-up question when you finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
So same person, this
Mhm.
is Kendra Sundering,
Yeah.
asked me on one of our Q&As what god I thought would take up my soul, because she's very interested in the deities, right? And she's like, who would you end up with? And I was like, I have no idea. I'd probably get stuck with Asmodeus because I did too much to improve his brand. What god snatches up Ed Greenwood? What realm's god?
Snatches up Ed Greenwood.
Yes.
I assume they're all going to fight over
your
you.
patron deity?
But who's going to win?
Yeah, who's going to win? We know there are at least 12 or 14 that are going to make a claim.
I'm going to say it's going to be Mistra because I know too much.
That's true.
And
I realize now that was a dumb question.
No, she would pull rank. You see, here's the thing. If it isn't for Ao playing referee, Mistra mops the floor with all the other deities.
Yeah,
because it's a high magic world, and she is the weave. So literally, the deity wants to do something at more than arm's length. Like the deity can be an avatar, can be walking around. You can do the Juggernaut thing in Deadpool 2. I'm going to rip you in half now. The deity can, but if the deity wants to do something to you and you're not within reach, I'm going to rip you in half on the other side of the world. Well, they have to use the weave to do that. And Mr. goes, no, you're not playing with my body. And then they find it's like another movie reference. It's like Thanos going, and nothing happens. Whereas Mistra is more like the Scarlet Witch with Thanos. I don't even know you. Oh, you will. You know, she is like kaboom. So and Mistra would just, if Mistra wants me. That came out wrong.
I feel like
did it?
We already played Mary Date Dump. That part's done.
Yeah, if Mr. wants me, Mr. can just go one side, fellas. You know, and nobody else. Now, you could have a Zeus saying, like Alfred the Butler to Batman. Could my lady, perhaps I could I take him off your? No.
Maybe you can visit for, astral tea or something.
Yeah, you can put him back together again after I've finished with him. Yes, that would be my thing. As in who I'd want to be taken by? Oh, that's somewhat different. That's more Saloon and Myliki and
Hmm.
slinky, nurturing forest goddesses.
Is that why there are so many slinky, nurturing forest goddesses in the realms? I'd always wondered.
I am a man of simple tastes, mainly cinnamon.
So, does that completely answer that question, Erin? You have any
I think so.
follow-ups?
No, that was
Okay.
just occurred to me.
So I have a question that's similar to a question asked of me once, and that was, if you
No, we're just good friends.
if you were to be empowered to choose a Realms novel to become a movie,
Oh,
Holy
which would it
crap.
be?
wow.
Now, I'm not saying the first Realms movie, okay, because the first Realms movie is already in production, so we know that's not a thing. But which one of the many Realms novels would you pick to be a movie? Now, Erin and I are not going to take it personally if you don't say Brimstone Angels.
No.
Words in my mouth. No.
No.
Okay, I am not going to take it personally if you
Okay.
don't say Brimstone Angels.
Okay, I'm not going to pick one because
Uh,
that's not fair to
I
either
didn't
the
say
authors.
the best. I said
no.
just pick
No.
one.
That's a good
That's all.
No, because
All right.
there are 3 that I want to see made into movies.
Okay, fair enough. Three for the price of one. That's fair
Yeah.
enough.
I want to see Homeland made into a movie.
Okay.
Okay, 4.
Starring
I want to
Vin
see.
Diesel, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, and I want to see El Shadow made into a movie
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
because
Mm.
of the byplay.
Really
I
good.
want to see Down Shadow made into a movie because I want to see that scene where he's got a babe in every room of his apartment and he's because I think properly played that could be. And I want Brimstone Angels because I want Erin to write the script though,
Aw.
because I want her to pull the thread she wants to follow out of that series of novels. I mean, I would follow Frida, but should I be following Frida? Should I be following Bryn as my, or Havilar? Who should be the over-the-shoulder character? I might choose differently than Erin, and Erin should have that call.
Who's our audience perspective character?
Yeah, and if I
I feel
wanted
like
to remake,
studio would tell me it has to be Bryn because he's the boy, but
well, yeah, no, I want
whatever.
the sexy.
If it sells a lot of tickets
no,
and
no.
gets me a cut, I don't
No.
care.
I want a sexy girl with a tail. Seriously, because it hasn't been
So
done
you
before.
want it to be Havilar, is what you're saying?
Well, no, or whatever. And if I was going to remake Knives Out, I would go and grab the one I did that was in the house with
Oh.
all the
Oh,
that-
I would watch the heck out of that.
Hmm.
That would
Yeah.
be very good.
You see, that's the thing. Those I think would all make good Hollywood movies. The way Hollywood makes movies now.
Yeah.
There are some other realm stories, Azure Bonds and so on, which
That
would
was
make great.
my pick when somebody
Okay.
asked me that question.
That
I
would
said
make it.
Azure Bonds.
Yeah.
Erin was like,
Yeah, you see,
it's okay.
it's much
I don't
harder
remember the
to.
exact circumstances, but I feel I'm being misrepresented here.
It's fair enough.
Yeah. No, it would be a fascinating basis. Okay, inspired by Azure Bonds would make a good
Okay,
movie.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you see what I mean? There's some that don't lend themselves. Bob's books, by and large, they lend themselves to a Conan-like movie. Only, hey, drow with 2 scimitars and moments of angst in between killing everything and slicing and dicing. But that would have to be inspired by, as opposed to based on one book. Because
Right.
aside from Homeland, they don't fit. They have the grand cinematic sweep, but they don't fit. And
Well, there's
I
so
know
much
this.
going on.
Yeah.
And over the course of time, like each one of those books is like a 4-hour movie.
Yeah.
And that's not a good amount of time to fit into a movie.
And I have sat through 3 story pitch meetings over the phone from Hollywood as various studios over the you might remember that the D&D movie rights were bouncing around in Universal and Warner Brothers, and everybody had a crack at it. And Bob and I were actually roped in on pitch meetings to listen to them. And I'm NDA'd, I can't tell you what was discussed, but it would not surprise you to learn that Hollywood takes a plot a tried and true plot that we could all recognize from another named movie or several movies, and said, why don't we just do this in the realms?
Mm.
Because it's simpler than trying to figure out what the F-bomb is going on in all of your guys' books. Because I sat down and tried to read it,
Oh my God.
and
Just
I don't know what's going on.
engage
And
with the text and stop trying to muscle it into something else. This is an
bingo! And Bob's comments were even less printable than that.
can
It's
see that.
something like, so you skipped out on grade 6 English? You know,
Well, you gotta tell on yourself like that.
but anyway, but I mean, he was really chopping the Hollywood people down to size, because he said, you're going about it the wrong way, trying to just sort of take bits and pieces and tell, here's the story we want to tell. That's fine. And it's great that you're consulting with us beforehand, because we can tell you what skeletons and what closets are about to fall out on top of you as but there's a better way to do this. And of course, what they do not want to do is adapt any of the novels for two reasons. They don't want to be beholden to one author who is not a member of a Hollywood union. Who are they? Number one. And number two, they're all too complicated. They've got subplots. And
there's an A plot and a B plot.
Yeah, and
might
while
have to
no.
pay someone else.
well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that to Hollywood. There are some movies that
Oh yeah.
dance around with lots of plots, but
Mhm.
this genre that they're looking to do movies in,
Mm.
they're looking more like Sword and the Sorcerer. I want spectacle. I want blood and guts. I want swords flying around. I want flesh. I want entrails.
Makes sense.
Messily spilled in front of me. None of that makes sense with, and of course, I'm thinking you could have a great, but then I stop. I stop in mid-word, because what I should finish the sentence with, you could have a great 4-year series on Netflix doing thieves in a large fantasy city, like say Waterdeep, doing the buddy thing on roofs and walls as they steal things and lipping each other off with witty repartee, and they're all cross-dressing whatevers, and there are revelations and so on, and that would make great fun. But I could see if I did that in the middle of a Hollywood pitch meeting, their little minds would go.
I've heard people say that novels are better adapted to TV series because you can do stuff like that, and short stories are better for movies because it is a tighter arc and you don't have to have as many things going on.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't like watching movies as much.
And it's interesting.
I want
'cause
all the subplots so my brain doesn't wander off.
sometimes TV series they take that reputation and roll with it and say, hey, we are an amazing adaptation of the source material because we had all this time to do it. Which, I mean, sometimes that works out, but if you watched Game of Thrones TV show, they narrowed it down a lot. If you watched The Witcher TV show as compared to the book that it's based on, like there's about 20% of the content from the books on the screen at any given time.
Yeah, there has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's missing a lot of the context of why something makes sense. You just have to kind of intuit it.
Yeah.
Or you've read the book and so you immediately pick up on it.
And that's
you don't
the
care
problem,
because you just want to see Superman as the Witcher. So
yeah, but I mean, that is the problem we've always had in adapting to different media. And in the past with the realms, it's also, and by past I mean pre-internet, pre-big graphics, pre-pixels, when you had to hit your word counts because print was it. You did not have time and space, and time again I'd be given this impossible assignment: Volo's Guide to the Sword Coast. Okay, I'm going to need 989 pages. No, Ed, it's got to fit in there. Okay, Volo's going to get thrown out of all these cities, and we're going to have one page on each of them because I haven't got space. It's like if the teacher in your grade 7 history class said, you need to write down all the important salient points in the history, founding of the United States of America, and how it got to be the way it is today. You have 2 paragraphs.
I dropped the class.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's those sort of impossible things. It's like, well, there were these founding fathers, and they appeared in some TV commercials, and we ate turkey at the end. Yeah, I mean, because literally, you don't have any more space. You know, and that is the problem, and that is the classic Hollywood problem. By the way, anybody who is listening to this cast and wants a Hollywood screenwriting training career, William Goldman, who is now deceased, so I'm not putting money in his pocket.
Yeah.
He had a big bestseller called Adventures in the Screen Trade. You want the next book, which is called Which Lie Did I Tell? And the title of that comes from when he was going to go out to dinner with a guy, and he turned up at his apartment a little early, and the guy is hopping around getting dressed. You know, he invites him in, says, "Oh yeah, come a bill," you know, and he's hopping around looking for his shoes and stuff because they're going to a high-class restaurant. And the phone rings. The guy answers, "Oh, hi," and then he puts his hand over the thing. He goes, "It's so and so. Which lie did I tell him?"
He's looking for shoes because it's a nice restaurant.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Because otherwise you go to the restaurant in your carpet slippers.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just caught up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But anyway, that particular book, it analyzes the famous North by Northwest being buzzed by the plane scene, and then analyzes 3 of his own scripts: Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Marathon Man, and Leopard Hunts in Darkness, I think, and why you put on screen this story element and not that story element from a book. What you leave out and why. What works on screen and what doesn't. So, I mean, it's a perfect, and I was very interested in this because during my entire history of being a green behind the ears fan, writing for Dragon magazine and all that stuff and moving along, Gary Gygax and various people were trying to do D&D movies with varying degrees of success. So I was always really interested in how do you sell to what began as a God-fearing, hostile audience, and I'm not talking now about gamers, I'm talking about fundamentalist Christian Deep South parents of gamers, the ones who control the purse strings at Christmas and birthdays, and who might spring for the movie tickets. How do you sell them what D&D is and get it right and not do the wrong things? And in a time before, Stranger Things works now because we have all come this far, and people who played D&D and loved it are running movie studios. That's also why we're getting the Marvel movies, because they're making the movies they wanted to see when they were kids that Hollywood wouldn't make then.
And why
now
the D&D movie is finally happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did happen before, but it's happening again.
We don't need to talk about that.
Hopefully better.
I can tell you tons of stories about that too, because Sweet Pea was up in Canada. It was Hollywood North. It was Corey was his mom was a casting director for Hollywood North, so he sat there at the kitchen table eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and watching his mom do the casting. Oh, this is dead easy. Anybody could do this.
Oh, famous last words.
Yeah.
We could do a whole interview specifically about that movie, couldn't we?
When I regain consciousness,
the
movie was ending. No.
There are 2 things. One, we'd have to watch it, right? Watch it to remind ourselves about what happened.
Oh, it is lovely.
And I'm not
when
sure
you see Jeremy Irons and his sidekick villain.
Jeremy Irons is pretty amazing. It's true.
Are alone worth the price of admission.
All right.